the implementation of Direction 99 is at the very best misguided, Nick. And today the Prime Minister has confirmed that it will be reviewed. Can you explain to our audience what is Direction 99, what are its consequences, and what on earth was the Minister thinking?
I can't explain the last bit, but what the Minister was thinking, but I'll give you the rest. Yeah, I mean, Direction 99 was an edict from the Minister to the Administrative Affairs Tribunal, who deal with immigration appeals, saying that if somebody spent a bit of time in Australia, if they've got some ties to the Australian community, and that's all left very vague, then we should give that weight as against other factors like their criminal record. So, you know, the AAT commissioners have taken the Minister seriously, and they've done exactly that in these high-profile cases where people with rape offences, child abuse offences, violent crime, drug dealing, people that would all, you know, would have been before Direction 99 would have been out on their ear. Now they can stay because they've got some connection with the Australian community. I thought the only connection that really mattered was whether you're prepared to take out citizenship and take an oath of loyalty to the country. That's how it used to be. But now apparently you don't need to do that, not according to Direction 99.
But you think the Minister's incompetence in this is absolutely indefensible, but apparently not. Here's Clare O'Neill going into bat for her colleague.
Actually, Minister Giles has stepped in here. He is taking action as a good minister would do. He's doing the right thing. He's stepped in at the right moment.
He stepped in at the right moment. OK, a lot of people would dispute that. He put in this direction, this ministerial direction, last January. Then they used the laws, this direction that was put in by your government, to stay in this country. So do you think it's maybe too late that Andrew Giles is acting now?
I just reiterate what Minister Giles has said yesterday. Those visas were cancelled by the part that government plays in this. An independent tribunal overturned those decisions.
Nick, when is the Prime Minister going to show some leadership here and put the safety of Australians before his mate?
Look, you know, we call this incompetence, and that's what it looks like from our point of view. But actually, let's not forget that Albanese and Andrew Giles, they actually philosophically want an open border policy. They've only been forced to do the turn back thing because of the electoral reasons, but that cuts across the grain to them. I mean, what they've done here in making it easier for all sorts of migrants, whether desirable or not, to stay in the country, that's exactly what they think. I mean, it's the same as the Democrats in the United States, isn't it? Look at the open borders there. It's in their mindset. So it's not incompetence as much as ideological madness, in my view.
Now on to the ABC, and the fallout from the Laura Tingle racism saga continues. Yesterday, ABC News Director Justin Stevens released a statement which said the following, amongst other things. Laura Tingle's remarks at the Sydney Writers' Festival at the weekend lacked the context, balance and supporting information of her work for the ABC and would not have met ABC's editorial standards. Although the remarks were conversational and not made in her work capacity, the ABC and its employees have a unique obligation in the Australian media. Yet there doesn't seem to appear to be any acknowledgement of this failure from Ms Tingle in her op-ed length statement, does there, Nick?
No, she's full of self-justification in there, and she's been misunderstood, and it's the Murdoch press and all that sort of stuff. It's what you expect. We've seen this play out before, haven't we? That an ABC reporter or commentator, you know, makes some outrageous statement or does some misreporting, say, for instance, on Donald Trump and Russia, and it's just ignored. They get away with it. It's a travesty, an absolute travesty, and I wonder what it would take to actually bring some discipline to the ABC, because it seems that management are trying their best to look like they're saying the right things, but it's a gentle slap with a wet lettuce leaf, I think, to Laura Tingle from ABC management, and there's no consequences for her. She's too powerful.
Speaking of no consequences, and the Greens continue to take a rather myopic and jaundiced view of the conflict in Gaza, here's Adam Bant at the weekend struggling to admit that Hamas is a terrorist organisation.
Do you also agree Hamas is a terrorist organisation that needs to be dismantled? Well, they're listed as a terrorist organisation.
Do you support that?
And our point is now, well, it's just a fact. They're listed
I'm
as a
asking
terrorist.
if you support it. Do you think they're a terrorist organisation?
Well, we're not arguing to change that. We're saying they're listed as a terrorist organisation.
So you agree they are a terrorist organisation?
Well, but the point is, what are you going to do? The Palestinian civilians cannot be collectively punished.
Sounds like you're having some trouble saying that Hamas is a terrorist organisation.
And then, Nick, yesterday the Greens engaged in an epic display of wedge politics, seeking to put up a motion to recognise Palestinian statehood. The Coalition, Labor and part of the crossbench, they opposed the motion to suspend parliamentary business to debate recognition of a Palestinian state. Now, there were two things which I thought particularly interesting to my mind. The part of the crossbench which voted with the major parties and the ones who abstained. And then the Greens' tantrum in the aftermath about Labor preferences. It was a rather instructive vote, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and the fact that, Adam Bant and the Greens are prepared to play politics with a crucial foreign policy issue like this it just shows we're in a very, very dangerous position if they get the balance of power in the next election. And I think you're right. What I think is going on here is that nobody in the Greens is really taking the foreign policy issues seriously. They're just after another totem. The Palestinian people are their latest totem. Was the polar bear one day and the climate the next, and today it's the Palestinian people. They've got zero understanding of the history and the politics of this, as Julia Gillard wisely pointed out last weekend. And they're simply trying to get their supporters on board with this virtuous statement over something they know absolutely zero about, and they're ignoring and closing their eyes to the terrible, terrible events of October 7th.
Here. Now, onto the corporates, and the news cycle, Nick, is littered with corporates taking positions on matters they probably shouldn't and then receiving an uppercut from the public for their effort. An interesting piece in the AFR about US corporations who are deciding to stay mum on non-core business. Are they finally learning?
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? They're backing away from this ESG business, which, a couple of years ago was supposed to be the new way of accounting. Everybody was supposed to do their accounts according to this. It's just not workable, is it, in the end of the day? I don't think that we're seeing the end of woke capitalism by any means, Caroline. In fact, I'm probably only just beginning, because the sort of people that are now filling their offices, or the different diversity and inclusion staff and so forth, they've got, just in sheer numbers, there are so many of them, they're influencing these companies. But at the end of the day, reality does hit. I mean, they have to make a profit, and if ESG is really seriously damaging the bottom line, they're not going to do it.
I think that's fair, and ultimately nothing brings anyone crashing down to reality quite like some corporate insolvency. But still over in the US, and the jury in the Trump trial, they're deliberating at the moment. Let's just say the last day or so has been rather eventful. First, Trump said this.
What's happening here is weaponization at a level that nobody's seen before, ever, in listening to the charges from the judge, who's, as you know, very conflicted and corrupt, because of the confliction, very, very corrupt. Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. The whole country's a mess.
And then the judge's direction to jurors, that raised some eyebrows. Here it is.
One thing in particular that this judge said that these jurors could do. He just delivered what is being called really the pinnacle of all of this. He said that there is no need to agree on what has occurred. They can disagree on what the crime was among the three choices. Thus, this means that they could split 4-4-4, and the judge would still treat them unanimously.
And then lastly, this was the hot take from a commentator at MSNBC.
as you've noted with respect to Judge Marchand, I mean, I am like now, you know, I have like a man crush on him. He is such a great judge that it's hard to see that the jurors wouldn't have the same impression. I mean, you just keep on thinking, if you looked in a dictionary for like judicial temperament, that's what you get.
Nick, can this trial get any more ridiculous?
That's weird, that MSBC quote, isn't it? That really is very strange. No, look, no, it can't. And Trump is right. You know, he said that even Mother Teresa couldn't escape the charges, couldn't get off this one. And he's absolutely right. The whole thing is terribly rigged against him. But is that, Caroline, you know about the law, is that right? Are they going to say, OK, we've got 3 charges, you can pick any one, you don't have to all agree that he's guilty of one of those charges, just if anybody thinks he's guilty of something, that'll do? That's just not justice, is it? Surely it'd be challenged in a higher court. But you know, it is a circus at the end of the day, and Trump, whether he'll, you know, whatever the sentence, whatever the verdict, you know, he's a winner out of this, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair, definitely politically in any event. And no, I haven't seen a court in this country or a judge in this country give that sort of direction. I'm not quite sure how far they would get. But moving on, and there are a number, obviously, of fragile geopolitical situations around the world. And the Korean Peninsula, well, that one there's been dicey for decades. But recently, a balloon has erupted. What on earth is this about?
Well, this is supposed to be retaliation, isn't it? The North Koreans are retaliating for the South Koreans sending little USB sticks across on balloons with K-pop on them. And they're retaliated by sending lots of rubbish and feces in these balloons, which fall to the ground. It rather confirms our thoughts about North Korea, doesn't it? I mean, not a lot of people get to go there, and those who do aren't given free access to walk around still. But, you know, if this is the best that Korean culture, North Korean culture, can provide to the South in return for wonderful USB sticks of K-pop, it really does confirm our thoughts about what sort of regime and what sort of country it is. It's just, but on that level, but it's also pretty disgusting, isn't it? I can't even say what's in those bags on television.
Yeah, well, look, it was not something that I was expecting to read about today, and I was a little shocked myself even by what we know about North Korean standards on those sorts of matters. Anyway, Nick Cater, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Caroline.